Are you ready to see the cutest, tiniest little crochet pumpkins that sell amazing at my craft shows? Not only are they super teeny tiny and adorable, but they are super quick to make. They're also really inexpensive to make because I love to use scrap yarn. So, introducing the teeny tiny mini velvet pumpkins. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to make these for your crochet business or even just to give as little fall gifts to your friends. They seriously whip up so fast. They are so cute and they pair so well with other pumpkins that you want to offer in your shop. I sell mine for just $5 each since they're so quick to make and so inexpensive, and they're a great small price point option to sell at my craft shows, and I cannot wait for you to make some of these for your upcoming fall shows. If you're new here, my name is Camryn and I run my own crochet boutique called Camryn's Cute Creations. Over years of doing craft shows, I decided to start this YouTube channel to help fellow makers grow their businesses selling at craft shows. So if that interests you, be sure to subscribe down below. I post free patterns, craft show tips and tricks, and all around just fun crochet content. This is a super easy and super quick pattern that you can use scrap velvet, also just any scrap yarn on. So if you're excited to try these little pumpkins out, just keep on watching. I'm going to show you exactly how to make these. Like I said, you can definitely use scrap yarn for this project. You don't need very much. I'm going to pop on the screen all of the materials you need, and I'll also throw all of the links in the description box down below for you. We're gonna start by doing a slip knot and a chain of 10. This is your reminder to keep your tension really tight when working with velvet. For me, it can hurt my wrist sometimes, so I figured out a new way to use my my tension, I guess. So this is how I wrap it around my hands. Instead of using my back to my pinky and my index finger, I wrap it around like this, and it's been helping a lot with my wrist pain and helping keep my tension a bit tighter. Once we finish our chain of 10, we are going to work back into our chain doing half double crochet slip stitches. Now, these aren't half double crochets, they're a half double crochet slip stitch. I'm demoing it here for you, but I'm going to walk you through the stitch a couple times. I've definitely used this stitch a few other times on my YouTube channel as well. So pretty much it's a slip stitch, but yarning over beforehand. So as you can see, I yarned over, went through the chain, picked up some yarn down there, and instead of yarning over, again, we're just gonna pull that through the other two loops on your hook. Here it is again, yarning over, inserting your hook in the next chain, pulling up a loop, and bringing that same loop through the other two loops on your hook. The reason I love the half double crochet slip stitch is it minimizes something called looping that can happen with velvet yarn, and it looks really bad. It pretty much makes it look like your project's falling apart, so this stitch helps minimize that. This is what your first row will look like, and we're gonna work back and forth in rows for this project. Make sure you chain one before turning onto working on your next row, and we're going to half double crochet slip stitch all the way across. That chain one does not count as a stitch, so you're going to work into that first stitch and work 9 stitches across the row. If you're struggling with this stitch, trust me, you're not the only one. It took me a long time to get used to, so I recommend pulling up that first loop that you're pulling up when you insert your hook into the next stitch. Pull that up a little bit higher than you think you would, and it'll help pull through. I know I'm explaining that a little weird. I hope that tip helps though. I am working on going back and forth a total of 20 rows for this project. We're just doing the same half double crochet slip stitch back and forth until we get 20 rows. I prefer to count every other row when I'm working with this stitch because you can see these little bars that are a little diagonal across. I just count those as double rows. So I'm counting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 as I count those little diagonal bars. Now we are going to seam the edges together. So I'm going to take the bottom of this rectangle we formed and pull it up to meet the top and match those stitches together. So there's going to be a total of 9 that we're going to slip stitch together along this seam. Working with velvet can be a little bit tricky to see your next stitch, but don't stress about it too much because the perk of working with velvet is it does hide mistakes really well. So if you feel like you're not quite matching the stitches perfectly, don't stress about it too much. I promise you nobody else will be able to tell that there is a little mistake. Now working into those last stitches of the seam, I'm going to pull up and do my last slip stitch. And now you should have something like this. It's gonna look like a little tube with an opening on the bottom and on the top. We're not quite done yet, so don't fasten off quite yet. We are going to be working around this top edge, and this is actually going to turn into the bottom of the pumpkin. So first we're going to start with a chain 1. We're going to work a total of 10 single crochets evenly around this edge. The best way to do that is look at those diagonal rows that we were counting before and work a single crochet on top of each of those rows. We're not working with the half double crochet slip stitch anymore. We're doing single crochets, which means it's even more important to keep tight tension during this part of the assembly. So just how I was counting before every other row, we are working a single crochet into every other row around this edge. I'm finishing it up by slip stitching with that first stitch. Now we are ready to fasten off the pumpkin and finish the assembly. You're going to want to leave quite a long tail. Honestly, I wish I left mine a little bit longer. You'll see here at the end, I barely had enough yarn. So I would say, honestly, 2 to 3 feet, and maybe even a little bit more to give yourself some wiggle room. You should have 2 tails coming out from the same area now, and I'm just going to double knot mine to secure the end of the crochet part, and then I'm going to use my tapestry needle to start weaving the bottom closed. I pick up the first loop on every stitch all around. You should have a total of 10 of them. Those are those single crochets we just worked in on the edge. So I'm just going to start tightening the bottom of the pumpkin shut. Now, be careful if you pull too tight. This yarn will snap on you, so just be really gentle with it and only go through a couple stitches at a time. Once the bottom of our pumpkin is shut, I'm going to take those same 2 strands as we did before and give them another tight knot so the bottom of the pumpkin stays nice and secure. You should have something that looks like this. One side will be open and we're gonna flip it the right side out now and tuck in that smaller tail that's not attached to our tapestry needle. And this is what it should look like at this step. We're gonna start taking a little bit of polyfill, and I like to break my polyfill up a little bit so it doesn't get all clumpy, and start lightly stuffing the pumpkin. You really don't need that much polyfill, and I prefer to not overstuff with this project. So put in just a little bit, enough to make it full, but you definitely don't want to be seeing your polyfill through your stitches. Your long tail should still have your tapestry needle attached, and we're going to now seam up the top of the pumpkin, going through about every other row back and forth, and leave a tiny little bit of space on the top because we do need to leave some room to add our stick, our little stem. I order these cinnamon sticks in bulk offline, and some of them are really small like this. These are the ones I love to use for my mini pumpkins, and I even break them in half so I get more out of my material costs since I am selling these products. The pumpkin is super cute as is, but I love to go in between these little bars that we keep referring to, the every other stitch that we keep looking at, and start going up through the bottom of the pumpkin, out through the top, and adding these sections to make it look more like a pumpkin. You may need to take your cinnamon stick out for a minute just to get it out of your way, and I'm not going to go through every single stitch, so I'm going to skip these ones and go now in between these 2 rows of stitches, and I'm going to continue doing that all the way around the pumpkin to make these even sections. Now here's your reminder to not pull too tight, because if you do, this yarn will snap and it's kind of a pain to fix it, and you're going to have to attach a whole another strand of yarn. So this is just your reminder to be gentle when finishing your pumpkin. You'll have 5 of those little sections, and here I told you I did not cut enough yarn when finishing the product because I barely had enough to tuck in the end, but luckily I was able to finish it and just finish it off by adding my stem. You can definitely glue in your stem. I actually prefer to do this with a little dot of hot glue, but it's definitely optional, and you don't have to if you don't want to. Since I am selling these pumpkins, I've noticed that people like to pick them up by the stem, and so that's why I choose to glue in the little stems. Okay, you have to admit, your pumpkins are the cutest, tiniest, littlest adorablest things you've ever seen, right? Like seriously, I am obsessed with how tiny they are. They're just so little and so cute, and they really do sell so well. I hope you love how yours turned out. I would love to see pictures of your finished mini velvet pumpkins over on Instagram. So if we're not friends on Instagram yet, what are we even doing? We need to be friends over there. I post on Instagram all the time. I also love resharing your projects when you tag me in your stories. So be sure to tag me in your adorable pumpkins. I wanted to thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you loved the pattern, and if you did, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. It really does help me grow the channel. Thank you for being here. I hope you love the pattern, and I will see you, my friend, in this video right here. Bye!